Allison Grayson was to bake a cake for the Baptist Church ladies group in Tuscaloosa, but forgot to do it. And so it's last minute. She remembers, she's trying to rummage through the cabinets. She finds an angel food cake mix. She makes it up, but she mixes it up. She's drying her hair. She's dressing. She's helping her son pack for scout camp. You know how it goes. And then when she looks at the cake in the oven, the center has dropped dramatically. Ever done that? Anybody ever done that? She says, oh dear, now there's not time to bake another cake. What am I going to do? So she's trying to be inventive. She looks around the house. There's something that just build up that center of the cake. And so what she does is she finds a roll of toilet paper in the bathroom. So she plunks it in, and she has extra icing, so she just covers it smooth all over. Not only did it look like a finished product, but man, it looked professional. It looked beautiful. So it looked perfect. Now, so before she's leaving the house for work, she wakes up her daughter, her teenage daughter, and she gives her some money, and she says, look, be at that church sale tomorrow at 9:30, buy the cake, bring it home. There's nothing else you have to do, but that's what you got to do. So the daughter arrives at the sale. She finds the attractive, perfect cake. Somebody's already bought it. So she tells her, she calls her mom on her cell phone. Her mom is, of course, horrified. And what would they think? This is a small community. I'm going to be ostracized. I'm going to be talked about. I'm going to be ridiculed for years. People are going to say, oh yeah, remember Allison Grayson? She was the one that... Okay. So the next day, Alice promises herself she's not going to think about the cake. And she has to attend this fancy bridal shower. Now, she doesn't really want to, because the hostess was a snob to her many times. She looked down at the fact that Alice was a single mom. She wasn't part of the founding families of Tuscaloosa, but she'd already RSVP'd, and she couldn't figure out a way to get out of it. So she goes, and the meal is elegant. The company was definitely the upper crust, Old South, and to Alice's horror, the cake in question was presented for dessert. Alice feels the blood drain from her body when she sees the cake. She starts to get out of her chair to tell the hostess about it, but before she could, the mayor's wife says, what a beautiful cake. Alice, still stunned, she's sitting back in her chair, and she hears the hostess, who is a prominent church member, say, thank you, I baked it myself. Alice smiled and said to herself, God is good. All right, shall we? Want to grab a question? So, Mike, grab a question and fire away. That was a good joke, Ron.
I'm going to go first, so I get to choose which one I'm going to do. What is Unity Village? Unity Village is a place. It's in Kansas City. It's southeast of Kansas City, and it's located in around the Lee's Summit area of Kansas. However, Unity Village is its own address. It was founded by bought and built by the Fillmores and the Fillmore family. It's a campus that probably has main buildings. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 main buildings on the central part of the campus, and then there's housing around the campus where the people who work there on a regular basis reside, and some of the ministerial students reside there while they're going to school. It's a place that houses Silent Unity. Silent Unity is a prayer. It's a prayer ministry that Fillmore started early on in their development of this. And it is a place where you can get prayer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and 366 days in the leap year. In other words, it never closes. The energy that's there at Unity Village, as a result, is unbelievable. You can feel it when you walk on campus. You can feel it in the atmosphere that's there, and it's a very, I think of it as a very holy place. It's on it's how many acres? 7?
About 1,350 acres.
1,350 acres, and where the campus is not, there is woods that has been left in the natural woods. They have deer, they have bobcats, they have raccoons, They have hunters come in to bring down the population when it gets too much, to be able to handle all the population of animals that live there. And when I was there were wild turkeys, and it was fun to get up in the morning and go for a walk in the woods and hear the turkeys gobbling at each other. It was really a cool thing. So that's what Unity Villages is. It's where the Worldwide Unity Ministry is run from. They're talking about the ministers' organization moving on campus there. They're just off campus. So it's a place where if you have the opportunity, I would encourage you to go see. It's the home of Unity right now.
And there is a 10-minute YouTube. You know, sometimes I remember which YouTubes I want to see by the time, and it's a flat 10:00. So for flat 10 minutes, if you Google and get on YouTube, Unity Village, you see it. And it tells a nice history in 10 minutes. Those of you that attend the Unity Basics have already seen it. But if you're new, that's a good thing.
Well, the next question is, how do you raise your vibration? And for me, I'd have to say that my primary way of doing that is through meditation. I've been meditating for 35 years now. And I did it to calm a very anxious mind at first. I was in my later 20s. But what it brought me was so much more, because it brought me, unbeknownst, not expecting it, that deep connection that goes underneath the thought world. It goes into that depth and that divine connection within each of us. But that's where it takes you, underneath it, so far more expansive, more depth, more meaningful, more loving. Just, it takes you to a place that is indescribable, into that silence. So that's for me how I raise my vibration, and there are many other ways as well. Some people do it in nature, some people do it through energy healing. That's big in my world, and that also brings it to a higher vibration for me through energy healing.
Let's see. Tana just said, share that mic because that one's not being recorded. Does Unity perform baptisms? I'm assuming, well, we do perform baptisms. We perform baptisms usually on infants. We don't do the, let's gather in the pool and jump in and be reborn. Good joke, though. One of my fellow students, Debbie Taylor, she took a job. It was her first week. She kind of wasn't sure where the light switches were in the Unity Church. The Unity Church had been a Baptist church at one time, and so she landed in the baptismal font, which was just about 6.5 feet, and she had to stay there for about 6 or 7 hours before somebody else came into the church. So we do baptisms, but it's mostly infants, and it's not to erase original sin, because we believe we have the original blessing. And we usually don't dunk them or spray them with water. It's usually done with rose petals. And so hopefully that answers the question.
Tithing, do you or should you with tithe on gifts such as gift cards, birthday gifts, etc.? I don't know whether that means, whether the question is asking, can you use that as part of your tithe? If you buy them or doing that as part of the ministry, or whether you're talking about cards that you receive in the mail, and should you tithe on them? And I don't know what we're talking about here. But tithing is a giving back of the plenty that you have. And we talk about, in the tithing classes, we talk about tithing not only money, but also on your time and your talents. So when we talk about buying things for the church, can you count that as part of your tithe? And the answer is, I would think that that would count towards the tithe, and the fact that if you didn't do it, then the church would have to spend some of the operating money to purchase whatever it is you purchased to do. Would you agree with that?
Makes sense.
Hope that answers the question.
I don't want that one. Or this one.
Just, and also to add on to that last question of how do I raise my vibration, I left out prayer. Prayer is such a phenomenal way for us to connect, but mainly it's becoming consciously aware of our divine essence and that divine connection and staying there. The longer we can stay there and stay in that connected state, the higher our vibration becomes a normal default vibrational field for ourselves individually. Okay. There are so many classes.
There are.
Yes. Many have fees. Are they individual or part of the church? Are the fees for the individual or divided to the church? It's okay. We offer an assortment of classes here, and this team offers mainly the SEE, the Spiritual Education and Enrichment classes offered through Unity. You can take them for credit or not. Everyone is welcome to come. But I can tell you that that one phase of learning for me was probably the most significant in my life. It's a 25-course curriculum through SEE courses. And what it does is it brings together all the different aspects of truth to develop in us a depth of spiritual understanding. Now, as far as the financial component of it, each of the churches have their own ways of splitting the costs or the fees that are attained through the classes with the instructors and with the church. Anything more?
No, good. Okay, these are done, right? We'll do that one to Howie. Is what you think you want, what you really want in the long run, always? I'll give you this so you can go next.
Oh, you want me to answer that?
No, I got this one and then you can do that one. It's a Jesus one. And this is our Jesus scholar. He's been studying Jesus for 60 some odd years, so we give it to him.
You want me to read this too?
No, I want to answer my question first.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, what you want is what you already have. You see, Unity, Course in Miracles, most spiritual teachings all tell you, you don't lack a thing. The point is you distinguish between learning to unlearn as over against taking the knowledge that's already innately within you. And that you already know.
That's a Jesus question. Did you read it?
This right here.
Yeah.
My glasses are so dim.
Let me read it.
Will you read it?
Yeah. I'd like to hear you talk about Jesus as our way shower rather than Savior of our sins. That's why I'm giving you this one. I find it difficult to explain this to others. Your explanation helps me so much.
First of all, Jesus the man. You've got to distinguish. Certainly there's a theological connection with the idea of the Christ, the anointed. Jesus in his teachings teaches we are no different than he is. The idea of the Christ in you is also that knowledge that I previously referred to. You already have that. That makes you the anointed one, and everybody is the anointed. Like you said, you don't baptize in terms of sin. You baptize in terms of the blessings you already have. I don't know if I've answered it at all, but the clarification of everything is Jesus thought of himself as you, as a man, as a woman. And there is absolutely, in the studies of the historical Jesus, more recently from the scholars themselves, that what he taught is radically distorted. I'm getting into dangerous ground now. For some 1700 years through the theology and the dogma of the church, which is only the interpretations of men. I might say not women, but men. So when you get that idea that Jesus and you are one, that's basically what all the ancients have taught.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. So, I'm going to go back to which is what you want, really what you want in the long run. And I think and feel that depends on where you are in consciousness and why you think you are here on the planet. And so everybody is at a different place with that. For me, I want to be of service. I want to teach truth because truth helps people and empowers them to really who they are, that they can move beyond the circumstances of their life. Everyone is born with something specific to contribute to humanity. And so that is something deep within our souls. It's the fire of our souls. And when we get in touch with that, that's really what we want in the long run.
It's getting down to the hard ones now, so. In some spiritual circles, there is talk of many dimensions and a soon-to-come ascension of souls. What is Unity teaching about this? Good. Our souls is the spiritual part of ourselves. There's the physical body that houses the soul, that is the spacesuit, if you will, that we need to wear in order to live here on the earth, on the earthly plane. The spiritual soul is housed within this body. Eventually, this body will wear out. I haven't met anybody yet that is still alive from thousands and thousands of years ago in the same physical body. The physical body does wear out. So when this body wears out and is no longer inhabitable, we have to scrap this body. What happens to the soul? Well, the soul, the Unity teaches that the soul goes on. That's the part that goes on. The thing that Jesus talked about of everlasting life is the fact that the soul goes on even when the physical body is no longer useful. So the soul goes on. Where does the soul go? Well, Unity doesn't believe that there is a place called heaven and there's a place called hell. We feel that those are states of mind, and you can experience the heaven and the hell right here on earth. You don't have to die to get there. So the ascension then of the souls already happens on a regular basis as people make their transition. Not that they're going to any place, they just go to the spiritual side of life and they carry on their learning that they need to do in order to get to that place where they know and can live from a position of knowing that of their oneness with the Creator. And that's what this is all about, is trying to learn that we're not separate, that we're one with all the rest of the spiritual beings. So there isn't a separation when we die. There's rest periods, I understand, and so forth and so on, but it's not a case of having to rise from the dead in order to make that happen. Is that okay?
Perfect. Did you have a question? Is this one done? No, okay. Okay, good.
This is
Okay.
Could you talk about how emotions play a part in unity, positivity, anger, sadness, etc.? And does unity try to deny them? Unity does use the methods of denial and affirmations, but it's coming from an awareness that through this life experience we have probably accumulated a lot of misbeliefs in our life experience until we find something like unity, which gives us guidelines in how to unblock our subconscious minds from those disbeliefs, those limiting beliefs, those narrowing, and come into direct communion with our divine nature and the divinity of all of life. It gives us those guidelines through our 5 principles. It gives us those, it really brings them home when we take classes, truly does. And we start working that in our lives, which is our 5th principle, putting them into action. How do emotions play? Emotions are they're our fodder. There are experiences that can, the telltale signs, the billboards for us to recognize where we are in any given moment. So what we're feeling is a direct result of what our thoughts have been. So we can trace it back and we can unpack all of that when we become self-aware and start working on ourselves really intently in becoming healthy in our mind and in our emotions and more in alignment with our perfect divine spirit. So that's the whole purpose of our purpose here on earth in each and every lifetime, if you believe in reincarnation. Does that answer it?
Don't look to me. Okay, that's this one? I think I'll do this one. What is Unity's belief in communion? Why don't we have more communion services? Well, we have about 2 communion services a year. And our town hall meetings, commercial here, is for you to tell us how we're doing. So that's the place for you to say, hey, I'd like to see 3 communions or 4 communions. So what is communion? First of all, communion is, you know, we can read the Gospels and know what Jesus did. What he did was no different than any Jewish man would do at a meal, which was to bless the bread and the wine and give thanks. Now, Unity believes, and it was never meant to be repeated, by the way, so it was never meant to be a ritual. And so Unity believes that the communion, when we intake the communion, by the way, we tried that high-tech communion, you all remember that? With the, anybody that communion service? Yeah, we're done with the high-tech communion service. Where it was little things and they were hard to open, the wafer was in the top, and then all the grape juice. We're back to bread and grape juice. Let's see, so Unity believes that the communion is when we commune with that highest force in the universe. So if we're going to use symbolically bread and wine, the bread is the divine substance. So it's the body of the Jesus Christ teachings. And the blood would be the spirit of life coursing through us. So that would be our communion. Now, the best communion is what we do individually between us and our higher selves. So that's in prayer every day. There isn't, we're happy to do the rituals for you, and but there isn't a need for ritual. It's your own personal ritual with your higher self. They used to let infants or toddlers receive communion way back, and then they forbade that. And then communion was, and I don't remember the centuries, then communion was only for the priests, and then they opened it up. So it's gone through some evolution in its own right.
How important were Emerson's writings, philosophies,
toward influencing New Thought. It's a case of which came first, the chicken or the egg. I'm not sure that Emerson wasn't influenced by New Thought teachings. There were many New Thought teachers. It's a whole big thick book that we had to go through when we went through SEE, and it has all of the people that were instrumental in the New Thought movement, and there were many. Emerson and Thoreau were part of that movement because they did writings, but I don't know whether it was Emerson's writings that influenced the teachers that came about, or whether it was the teachers that came about with this New Thought philosophy that influenced Emerson and Emerson's writing. So I don't know which came first, Emerson or the thought, but it all is banded together on that.
The next question is, what is love? What is love? Well, we all have a feeling of love from an earthly perspective. But I believe that our real purpose is to come into full awareness of the love that we are. Because of our divine nature, that is divinity, that is pure, unconditional love. And so that's why it's so important to get underneath all the thoughts and all the intellectual learnings and have that experience in the depths of that inner silence where we are so connected that we taste, we smell the perfume of the divine, and we taste that overwhelming essence of pure love that can never, ever quite reach it on this human experience. And when we taste that, it becomes the very essence of what we live and breathe for. To maintain that connection, that essence of love all the time. And we can do it. We're doing it right now. To me, that's love. And that's love is in the form of service as we give. And I believe, at least coming from my own personal perspective, I first started working on myself in the spiritual realm to help myself survive, to get out of that survival mode. But what it did was it brought me into that experience of connection. And that experience of connection, even though I was still on the mode to bring myself into a healthy way of living and being in this world, it eventually brought me into that realm of service, where it's not about me anymore, and it's about giving and serving. And I think that's part of the transformation that we undergo on our spiritual journey.
Good. Okay, this is a four-part question. Is our Unity Church actively promoting diversity among our congregation? Well, we might look mostly Caucasian and not very diverse, but I can tell you we're very diverse. So we're diverse in our different beliefs, we're diverse in our value systems, we're diverse in how we spend our time, we're diverse in what we think our purpose is on this planet. And if anybody wants to be the head of our new diversity team, and you want to promote more diversity, we are open to it, because Unity welcomes all paths to God, and wherever you are in your spiritual path, we welcome you. Does Unity believe in reconciliation? Absolutely. If you have unforgiveness, that will block a balanced life, that will block your wholeness. So we do a lot on forgiveness. Will the new church have a fully functioning kitchen for events? Well, it may and it may not. We don't know what Spirit has in mind for us. We don't know if there's another church out there that's going to be available for us. The question, I'm going to tie this in, so I haven't quite answered that, and I'll come back to it. Is there a financial strategy for getting to 3 million? Yes. The financial strategy is that we are meeting in prayer every night at 9 o'clock. I think a lot of us are on the same call every night at 9 o'clock. It only takes about 6 or 7 minutes of your time, and we are joining in consciousness, and we are telling Spirit what we need and why we need it. We're saying what we need, we believe we need $3 million because of what the architects and the builders have told us we need. And we know why we need it, because we want a permanent home for our spiritual community. And we also know that we're in charge of the why we want something, and we tell the universe what we want. And Spirit is in charge of the how and the when. So we will just see on December 31st, right after midnight, how our prayers have been answered, because we know there'll be some answers there. And whether one of them will include a fully functional kitchen, well, we'll just have to wait and see. The current plan does not include one because the builders and the architects and most of the people on the building committee didn't think that they needed one. It's a lot of men who think that food just comes through the walls of the kitchen. You don't actually really need an oven or a stove. It just somehow magically appears on the dining room table. There you have it. Okay. So that is the end of our questions. And we thank you. We had a great participation.